All right. Okay, so welcome everyone. I am super excited to be here and introduce this session. So I'm Elizabeth Rosenzweig, one of the founders of World Usability Day and president of the World Usability Initiative. And for those who don't know, World Usability Day was started in 2005, and we have been having events on the third Thursday in November since 2005. So all the ups and downs with the economy and all sorts of crazy things going on, we're still here. And not only that, we've expanded and grown to our initiative, World Usability Initiative, which is basically to get World Usability Day on the calendar of the United Nations. And why? We modeled ourselves after Earth Day, and Earth Day did get on the calendar of the United Nations and was able to expand all around the world and educate people about the importance of taking care of our planet. And I'd like to think, I don't have empirical evidence, but as an urban legend, I like to think Greta Thunberg went to a Earth Day event and sort of got her really charged up. And now, of course, we all know she's, working with all the other kids to stop climate change. So that's what we hope to do with World Usability Day, to get people to understand that it's not necessary to put up with products and services that don't work for you. And while, here's my favorite prop, which just got bigger, while it's great to run around the world with a little computer in your hand, it's not a phone, not that usable, but we put up with it because it's what we have. Anyway, enough of that. So as a result, we started a design challenge, World Usability Initiative, a couple years back. The first year was funded by SIGCHI, and now we have a sponsor in perpetuity, HCI International, who every year will invite the winners of the design challenge to their conference to present the awards. And so last summer, most of us were in Copenhagen. Those who weren't there physically could be there online. And so we're doing a little redo of that presentation. So to kick it off, I am going to introduce Gilbert Cockton, who is the chair of the jury of the Design Challenge, and he's a member of the World Usability Initiative Advisory Board. And I'm going to turn it over to Gilbert. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth, and welcome to everyone here. So just a quick introduction to the Design Challenge as we held it for 2022. So what we're attempting to do with the World Usability Initiative is to draw attention to user-centered design and further developments of it. So we've had 4 decades of advocacy and celebration, but in many ways we're treading water. We all know that a well-curated, user-focused research and evaluation can significantly improve design outcomes by soaking designs and user insights. But we also know that a user-focused research and evaluation doesn't always improve design outcomes. So whether a user focus is a great success or whether it disappoints, we still don't really know why. Certainly not to the degree that we'd like to be able to convince a much wider audience across tech and beyond that making good use of a user focus is a very, very valuable and worthwhile approach in design. So it could well be that things succeed when things are well directed, well managed. It could equally be because it's copiously inspired, it's innovative. Others claim that a user focus is rigorous and systematic. Again, from people from a creative background will stress the importance of it being creative and adaptive. Others, citing the great charismatic designers, will talk of charismatic leadership. And in organizations, people will stress the importance of having a champion for a project, and without a senior champion behind it, it may not succeed. So whatever it is, the question is, how is this evidenced? And the Design Challenge encourages people to submit work that provides clear evidence of success of user-focused work and the reasons for it. So what we asked in 2022, and we're asking the same for 2023, is first to show that you carried out good user-focused research and evaluation. And we've been able to do that for almost 4 decades now. There's nothing, that's the starting point. Much of the time, though, that's the end of it. People said, we did this research, we did this evaluation, and it's not always clear how these connected with design work. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And what we then want to see is how these connections in turn connected to user experience and usage outcomes. So we're not assessing whether user-centered design is a good thing or a bad thing. What we want to know is when, how, and why a user focus is worthwhile. So as we said in the brief, and we said again this year, we don't expect all connections to be explicit or to have insights or results. For implicit connections, various forms of creative leap are expected and legitimate, but they must be argued to depend on discoveries, insights, and results. And for explicit connections, we expect to see clear rationales for how discoveries, insights, and evaluation results redirected design or redesign decisions. So I think we need to bear in mind, many people in user-centered design don't always do this, that human factors are not the only factors. They must coexist effectively with other design factors, and that successful design is never wholly due to user focus, and or how this connects to other design work. We expect balance, not advocacy. I think it's very important to move beyond saying how important a user focus is to actually demonstrate when it works, why it's worked, how it works, and if it hasn't worked, we need to understand that so we can improve things. So without stealing the thunder of the award winners, all the award winners' submissions are online. You can look at them. Their papers, they published papers in HCI International as well, and hopefully they're accessible via the award winners' web pages or their company web pages. If not, we do encourage people to make them public, the award winners. So the submissions were well documented, in one case very well documented. It was an exemplary example of design documentation. What we saw was a balance between user focus and other considerations, particularly creative work and creative practice, which much of the time is the bridge between a user focus and an effective design. We saw credible evaluation results, often over several iterations, and we could see a clear progression of design work. We could understand the narrative of how the user research and evaluation was planned and how that guided each iteration. So we could see how and why user-focused work supported and directed other work and vice versa, that we're really looking at foci and not a single center. Again, moving away from the rhetoric of user-centered being all there is about design, because we know that's not the case. At the same time, we do know how important the user focus is, and the purpose of these awards is to demonstrate that. So, in summary, they rocked. Absolutely amazing. Elizabeth and I have had the privilege of sitting through 2 groups of presentations now, and it was really heartening to see the standard of work that was submitted. So thanks to everyone who engaged, not just the award winners, but the jury and everyone that submitted with the design challenge last year. I'd like to pass over to the award winners now. So we're going to start with Carolina Ali. So if you can share your screen, Carolina, and we look forward to hearing what you did. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gilbert. So you can see my screen now. Right. Thank you. Thank you for the time and space. It's an honor for me to be here. I'm Carolina Lee. I'm originally from Mexico. I'm living now in Boston, and I'm going to present my project. Curiously, my background is in education. I did my bachelor in education. I've been working in education for more than 10 years. And just this past year, I finished my master's in learning engineering at Boston College. And this project is part of one of the designs that I did during my master's. And now I'm looking ways of taking it forward. So it's very exciting for me to be here and present this work, and also very honored to have this award as well. I'm gonna shrink this because I cannot read. Yeah, okay. So we all know that our planet is facing critical challenges, right? And these all systematic changes are affecting the way that we live in planet Earth, the biodiversity, socio-environmental issues, and these demands are urgent attention, right? These are not new news. But what I think is that education and technology can be an ally in empowering people to take care and protect our home and our environment. But how can we protect something that we don't love, right? That we don't first love. So that's why I created Curiously. I believe that we can start with early childhood and families, where it's our primary center of like bonding and creating meaningful relationships with the world. And a lot of challenges have also affected early childhood, like we spend more time indoors, we spend less time outdoors because of different reasons. But research have demonstrated that connecting young children with nature have long-term benefits, not only in aspects related to pro-environmental behaviors, but also related to health, cognitive development, social, emotional aspects, and even school readiness. Jack Heckman, one of the Nobel Prizes of Economics, stated that the quality of the interventions in early childhood are the ones that get the greatest economic return in life. So I believe that investing in early childhood is very important, and we can do this with technology. We can create a great leap for our children. Meaningful outdoor experiences inspire children to love and care for nature, and therefore also develop early scientific skills, which are very important if we want to solve these socio-environmental issues and systemic changes. So this is the brief of the design I created. Curiously provides resources and support to help caregivers and their families create meaningful adventures in nature. I designed these for kids around 2 and 6 years old, and along with their caregivers, they can create playful and engaging learning adventures together, promoting this deep and emotional bond with the natural world. What I did was a mock-up of an app that I'm gonna showcase in a bit, so that you can see these relationships more explicit. This app is meant to design in a mobile tablet learning environment, and this is because it holds unique properties that have some educational affordances that are related to this design, such as portability, which is important if you wanna engage outdoors, social interactivity, context sensitivity, and connectivity. These are some researchers that have done some projects related to education and environment and mobile computing. So this was a great framework for me to follow as well. The goals are to design these shared experiences with families so that they can explore, wonder, reflect, and learn in and from nature. And the context could be anything that is outdoors. It could be the backyard of your house, it could be the park, it could be also a hike or a weekend outdoors, or a trip to the beach. It depends on the families and what they have accessible. Because I work in education, it was very important that this design also had a learning conjecture, not only the usability of it, but also that it leads to learning outcomes. So the learning conjecture in this project is that children and their caregivers will develop scientific curiosity, knowledge about the natural world. And there's a researcher that I'm going to talk a bit about it, calls it islands of expertise, these little like things that kids are the knowledgeable in the room about, like for example, a kid being obsessed about dinosaurs and knowing everything about dinosaurs and being very curious and excited about dinosaurs. We see that very often. I want this to happen with also aspects in nature, right? And this, it's followed by the natural curiosity of their children. And this will happen by engaging in outdoor explorations, framed by scaffolding, reflective activities, and making connections across experiences. Also, it's very important that the app affords engagement. So I imagine the engagement happening because of the different features of the app, and I'm gonna explain that in a bit as well. A design tool that helps to be very systematic about the decisions and the processes that I imagine the app promoting. It's this conjecture map, and this conjecture map is just a design tool. I'm not gonna expand on this, but I just wanna make sure that I communicate that it's important to be systematic when you are designing something, because each design decision leads to something, and in an app, each design decision leads to a possible interaction and therefore aims towards the outcome you are aiming for. So in this case, I use this tool that is used in learning sciences by Sandoval, that it's conjecture map, but you can use a logic model or any other tool that help you be systematic and keep record of all the design decisions you're making and understand where the changes are being made across the design process. So this is the learning design. It's a learner's adventure journey that I created so that the resources and supports are divided in these three main stages of the app. Preparing for the outdoors, that is before, it's like planning and wandering and preparing. Then the outdoor explorations, and then when you come back home and you reflect on the activities and you create something and share with other family members. So for the prepare and wander part, the features of the app were to choose a place to go first, to talk about this place that you're going together, like the season, where is it close to home, or how do we have to prepare? Do we need to make a special list of things to take? And just to talk about the place and choose a setting. And for this, there's a feature of the map and a list of things that you can do. Then select a storybook to build prior knowledge. In education, it's very important to build prior knowledge before introducing a place or a topic. So in this case, stories could be a great ally on that. So the objective is to have a library of stories in which parents can choose a story that is related to the place that they are going, to the season, hopefully, and to the age, if it's related to the age of their children, and read a story before going to this place. And then ask questions, wonder, be curious about the place that they are going, and plan activities that they can do outdoors. So that's what the app supports in this part of this stage of the learning journey. Then when they go outdoors, I don't expect parents or kids to be stick to a tablet or anything. The objective is to explore with their senses, to remind of the questions that they have, to be mindful. And the app will be used to collect data such as pictures, audios, sketches, and videos, just like an explorer. And with this data, they can create something afterwards. There's scaffolding for caregivers to mark and point out and wonder, and maybe mark some vocabulary words that are important. And this could be a guide for parents, but this is not intended to be used by children while they are outdoors, just for taking pictures. Then they come back home, and then they can create meaningful representations of the experience with the app. And there are some features for that there. They can also share it and create with other family members. I imagine, for example, they can call grandmother and share the experience with them and share the album of pictures they created, and then make connections across different experiences they had. For example, if they went to the same place, if you're here in the US, the stations, like the seasons are very, very marked. So if you go to the same pond on the summer, you'll see different things if you go in the winter, and things like that. You can revisit, reflect, and compare and contrast. So I talk about the design process. I'm gonna focus a little bit more on this. The first thing that I did was to do a literature review and research on what works in learning outdoors, what have other people have done in the past, what other researchers have done in related to using technology in nature, for example, and also about early childhood. And with this, I created a first iteration and an ideation for what I wanted to create. I didn't know that it was gonna be an app by that stage, but I talked with parents and I did like a ideation session with them, sharing an idea that I had and having feedback on that idea. Then with their feedback, I created the first prototype that you're gonna see briefly, that it's a mock-up of an app, and I tested with caregivers from my cohort and also other caregivers that are around the world, in Mexico, in other countries as well, like 5 families. And they gave me their feedback and incorporated some of these ideas in a refinement so that I had a second prototype that I could share with other families and test it outdoors. Okay, as I said, the first thing that I did was to do a literature review and have some design lenses of other theoretical frameworks that inform this design. These are some of them. These are based on learning sciences and education, and people that have worked with technology and education. I'm not gonna expand much of this, but I already talked about these islands of expertise that are very important in building knowledge in young children. And also some design principles for learning in nature. And this is a great author that it's David Sobel, that had some design principles for learning in nature. And I took these design principles and incorporated into the design. And you're gonna see a little bit how they are incorporated in the mockup. And also principles from constructionism that are learning scientists that work with technology and education. And there are some famous ones are the Seymour Papert and Mitch Resnick and Marina Burrs that talk about these low floor, high ceilings, make it easy to get started and provide room to grow across the apps so that the tool is manageable for a wide variety of users. Also that they can express their creativity, they have their own passion projects in the app. It's not limited or framed to be just one adventure, whereas it's more about you have your own adventure and you use these resources to expand it the ways that you want, right? This is the principle that it's called wide world, allow many pathways and styles of exploration and creation, expression and learning. I already talked about this prototype. This is the first one that I shared with parents. It was just like a slide like this, like ideas, and they gave me some insights. Then this is the second prototype that I created, and this is a mock-up of the app. Is you can create your profile. Then you can invite other caregivers with a special code so that it's safe. You select the place that you're going, and if you don't have concrete ideas, you can also like look into the map, what is close to your house, when are you going, maybe the weekend. Then you read a story, you select the story. In this case, they're going to the pond, so they read a story about the pond. There are tips for reading stories for families, tips for asking open-ended questions, and then they reflect on the book. in this case, it's about the turtles they saw. This is something like, for example, a child would choose what they want to focus on, in this case, turtles. Then they can have questions here. They can record which questions they have, what they wonder, if the place they're going, they're going to see turtles or not. Then the caregiver models, they also show curiosity as well. And then they can have some ideas of what they can do outdoors. And then they go outdoors, they use their senses. And this is where the design principles for learning in nature come from. They spot animals, they can tag them, they can, tag the animals they spot, record videos, audios, do sketches. There are different functions that they can do outdoors so that they can record all what they want in exploring the pond. And then they come back home and they create and share something. So in this case, it's an adventure story, and they take all what they collected. For example, here, the pictures of the animals they took, and they can create an album or a mini video or a mini podcast. They call grandma and they show them all what they learned, all what they saw in the pond, and how fun it was to have this adventure outdoors. They can revisit their stories, and they can edit and share and reflect and download what they created. So this is a mock-up that I shared. I tested with parents, as I said. I got a lot of feedback. I learned that I had to learn a lot about human-computer interaction, and that I had to learn about more about usability, more about the design. But what the important thing was that also parents gave a lot of ideas, like take more advantage of the affordances of a map function, expand. They gave a lot of ideas that I incorporated in the second testing. Some of them, for example, also recommended having UDL principles, that is universal design for learning. That is very important if you are having a wide variety of kids with different abilities and skills, so that the app has to work for everybody. And working towards that is one of the objectives that I want to learn as well in future iterations. And parents have really appreciated that the tools and resources were backed up by research. So I think this, to the point of Gilbert, I think this is very important, because they gave ideas, but they also appreciated knowing what to do and knowing why these ideas are where they come from, right? So in this particular population, it's very important because they are seeking for answers. They are seeking for what works, what is useful, especially when there's a great offer of educational apps. They want to know why this works and why it's backed up by research. So that was an important insight, and that it's a technology with a purpose. The third prototype was to test, because I couldn't develop the app, and these are just mock-ups. I created an app, a guide for parents with the main stages and the ideas and scaffolding, so that they can have it and take it outdoors, even if we don't have the app yet. So this was to test the interactions and to test the journey, and we did that, and we went outdoors. I simulated that I sent them a story. I simulated that that they read the questions that they created, like they reflected before. And I went with them outdoors, and as you see, this kid was actually very engaged with the turtles. He was looking for turtles in the pond, and he knew exactly where they were. It was very fun to see that, and the interactions that the parents and the kids have. And I also tested it with younger kids. This is a 2-year-old, and they did different activities, and they were interested in different things. This kid was more like an explorer, touching and like sensing everything. And it was very fun to see. And I saw a lot of high quality interactions, and I wonder if it was because of the app or just the app was a resource, but actually parents were very engaged as well. So I would say that I cannot tell that it is because of the app or not, but I could see these high quality interactions that are very important. So it was very exciting for me. Next stages that I imagine for this app is to test it, continue testing it with variety of families, especially novices, especially families that maybe are not used to going outdoors. Maybe these families were used to going outdoors, and that's why they had very high quality interactions. Test the create and share section of it, because I couldn't develop the app, I couldn't test that part, just the idea of it. And make clear that either small or big projects can be done. They don't have to go through all these stages. They can use the resources as they want, and build a more functional mockup so that we can test it with an MVP or something in collaboration with developers. These are some key takeaways. I already shared some of them. Mainly plan the testing ahead of time. It's very important, especially when you're dealing with a variety of stakeholders. For example, parents don't have like a lot of time. Time can vary. Like if a kid gets like tired, they have to leave right away. So for example, I ran out of time to ask them the questions that I wanted. So I had to send them by email, and I think it wasn't the ideal way to do it. So planning ahead of time, all the things that might happen in the testing is very important, and especially the core things you want to test along each iteration. And well, I close with this quote of David Sobel: if we want children to flourish, we should ask them to first love nature and inspire them to love nature before we ask them to save planet Earth, right? Thank you very much, and that's it. Thank you. So I'm gonna stop presenting, but
We're gonna take the questions at the end, just so we make sure everyone has, enough time to present. So keep dropping them in the chat if you want, yeah.
I hit the sharing buttons and I cannot find them again. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave the call and I'm gonna come back.
Okay. Well, it's all right. I wish I could
I cannot
unshare you, but
yeah. Okay, thank you.
okay. Gilbert, do you want to introduce them, or should I?
Thank you for that, Elizabeth. Sorry, I was just waiting for things to straighten out. Right, so our next award winner is Nitsan Avatu, and over to you, Nitsan. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Hi, everybody. Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay. So let's start with the first story. Okay. One evening, I was at home watching TV when I suddenly received a push notification from the Israeli Railways app. Good evening. Well, that was strange, but it was definitely a good evening, and there was a confirmation button. So I confirmed. Soon after, another push notification. Good evening too. Turns out that many users received these two notifications, and obviously social media just loves such incidents, so the fun began. This girl, for example, posted a story asking, hey, why is Israel Railways flirting with me? And there were many other posts on Facebook. Something's up with the train developers. It's the railway designer's way of saying good evening. And most importantly, why isn't the button centered? Well, it turns out that the developers were testing the notifications feature and accidentally worked on the live system. Things happen. This was funny, but also made us very happy because it proved that the notification feature actually worked. This is one of the most important features in the app. We'll see why later. Anyway, this totally became part of our folklore, and we didn't miss the opportunity to use it in our communication with the client. And that also gave us a very good idea for a Purim costume. You know, Purim is like the Jewish Halloween. Hi, my name is Nissan Abitov. I'm the owner and CEO of UXpert. We are a UX design agency from Israel. We do user experience design for complex B2B systems for high-tech companies mainly, as well as applications and websites for large organizations. I'm here today to talk about the process we went through when designing an app for the Israeli Railways Authority. I will highlight how the research insight influenced our design decision. Let's talk a bit about some of the research findings. Of course, we started with stakeholder interviews. Setting goals and objectives is, of course, an important part of it. These are the goals we've set at the beginning. The goals of an easy-to-use app and improving public image are pretty trivial. The real challenge was, how do we add value? How this train app can add value in a world full of other good transportation apps, such as Google Maps, Move It, and others. Is there a real need today for a specialized train app? That was the real challenge. We realized that once we cracked this, we'd know what to focus on in our design. You know, good user experience starts with bringing real value to our users and not just nice UI and stuff like that. After that, we moved on to user surveys. We've discovered a lot. I'll give just a small taste. We found that most people travel on regular routes, for instance, from home to work and back. And the vast majority, especially in Israel, plan their trips right before or the day before their travel. I will later show how these insights were reflected in the actual design. Open questions were also very useful in our research. They raised new ideas that we might have not thought of and made us understand what's really important for the passenger. For example, in this case, we asked, what are you missing in the existing apps? We received a lot of good answers. To deal with it, we tried to figure out a pattern. So we grouped the comments by topic, and in each topic, we sorted them by the number of times each comment was repeated. Thus, we identified the issues that need to be addressed as high priority. Next, we did some market research. Let me say a word about this. Market research and looking what others are doing might bias and lock us into a solution, even if we don't want to. So whenever possible, I know it's not always possible, but whenever possible, before looking at other apps, we try to come up with our own concept. It's always possible to check later what others are doing and see if we missed anything and fix what we did. But starting first has its benefits and may lead us to unique solutions that are not like the other. Anyway, we looked at other apps, other train apps. All of them were using a standard search form, from to when. We checked out other transportation apps, such as Google Maps, Move It, Waze, and others. And of course, in our case, we also examined the existing app, which also used a standard search form for travel planning. I'll show our solution later. Now what? How do we turn our research insight into a design that perfectly meets the user's needs, fits the organization's goals, and if possible, also stands out? You know, I've been working in this field for 30 years now, and it's always a stressful phase in the design process. There are a few techniques that work fine for me. I will list just two. The first thing, no pressure. It's important to allow things to sink in. We need some time to digest everything that we have learned, internalize and fully understand the processes in detail, and really get into our user's mind. And the second thing that I found to be effective for me is to sleep on it at night and wake up for ideas in the morning. The optimal time for creative thinking is during light sleep, in the early morning hours when you are between sleeping and waking up. When you have a problem to solve, think about it before going to sleep. You'll be surprised how many good ideas you'll come up with in the early morning hours. Just be sure to have your smartphone handy to take notes. After doing this, the first thing we do is look at the big picture, focusing on the strategic aspects, the features, and the flow. So we took the project goals and tried to figure out what really adds value to the train user. We distilled and formulated 3 key points that passengers perceive as the most desirable benefits of a train app. Focusing on these values will make users really want to use the app and enjoy it. In general, users believe that the railway authority have the most reliable and up-to-date information, that they know us as users and can accompany us throughout the entire journey, and can also provide reminders and updates in case of changes. So we took what we learned and created user stories. These could be real stories, in words, and of course, flowcharts and information architecture. After doing this, we realized that the main thing in a train app is planning the trip. So we should start there. The easiest and most anticipated approach was to use a search form, like all other apps we've seen. But a search form is inefficient. Although it seems like a single screen, it's really not. Research shows that multi-step forms are better than a single-step form. In this case, you've got to tap on the origin station field and pick a station from a screen or a pop-up. Then you tap the destination station and select the destination, then on a date and select the date, then on the time and select the time, then specify whether it is departure or arrival time, and finally hit the button. About 10 taps on average to plan a train ride. Look, we usually don't mind extra taps as long as the user interface is clear and there is no cognitive load. But in our case, this is a utility app, and remember, people are sometimes searching at the last moment, and efficiency is very crucial in this case. So if we can make it efficient while still being clear to the user, then why not? But in our case, a search form is not only inefficient, it's wrong. If most passengers are traveling in the same route, our main focus could be on preferred rides and travel history rather than forcing the user to search over and over again every single time. Thus, we realized we needed an interface for travel history and preferred trips were the focus, and we tried a few options. In the first one, we had a list of favorite and recent rides at the bottom, and a button to start a new search. However, we wanted the users to quickly understand that this button will start a search, so we designed it as a search field. In this version, we also tried to have users select the destination station and then the origin station, but usability testing showed it didn't work. When planning a train ride, people are used to specify where they get on the train first and then the destination. It's not like a car travel when you travel from your current location to your destination. So we finally came up with this design, travel history and preferred ride at the bottom, and a button that looks like a search field in between the two sections, which make it stand out. Then we moved on to designing the processes, the search processes. When designing a process, the first thing we do is try to phrase it as a dialogue from real life. For example, in this case, in real life, we say, find trains that depart from Tel Aviv and arrive in Haifa at about 9:30. This alone dictates the correct interface solution. Route planning is completely serial, so we built it as a process, not a form, and I'll show you what we did. Search trains that depart from Tel Aviv Center and arrive in Haifa, HaKarmel Beach at about 9:30, and this is arrival time. That's it. A lot shorter, about half the taps, and it's also guided and very clear. And for the frequent travelers, who are the majority, and these are the most important users, we show travel history, give them the option to pin their favorite rides to the top. Then all they need to do is just tap a route, specify the time, and that's it. Way more personal, more efficient, and much faster, about a quarter of the taps, and this is what most of our users are doing all the time. And it's very clear. There's nothing complicated about it. As I mentioned earlier, an important added value was the ability to provide passengers with reminders and updates. So, of course, we provide updates throughout the app, in pop-ups, stickers, on the search results, etc. However, our research showed that frequent travelers already know everything they need to know about their travel. They know the time, the platform, the swaps, etc. What they really need is to be notified in case of changes, and also get reminders and updates throughout their journey. So on the selected trip card, we enable them to tap the bell icon, ask to be reminded when it's time to get off, add the ride to the calendar in order to know when to go out, and most importantly, ask to be notified if anything changes, for a single ride, specific ride, or regularly on the days of our travel. The conversation with our user doesn't end in the app. We always try to figure out and identify where it can continue also outside the app. Another added value is the ability to accompany passengers throughout their journey. So we try to map the user journey and create a special display for each scenario. The first one is the ride planning scenario we just saw. And if the user ordered a train ride voucher or a ticket, they'd most likely want to present it at the gate in order to enter. So the main screen displays it. We know what the user needs, and we help them find it right away. And when our users are traveling inside the train, they might want to know the current location, the arrival times, and if there are any swaps. And when there is a swap, they might want to get instruction on how to get to the next train and when it is supposed to depart. This screen was not developed yet. It's in the UX phase, as you can see, but we're working on it right now. That's it for the strategic decision. However, flow and features are only one part of the solution. Tactical decisions on each screen are also very important and affect the overall experience. We always try to figure out what information and actions the users might need on each screen and try to provide them in the best possible way. So again, since most users start their journey from the nearest station and travel to fixed destination, this means that on the origin station list, we provide the nearby stations first at the top of the list. And on the destination list, we show the user's recently selected destination. So in most cases, users can proceed with one click and don't need to scroll or search. Speaking of search, we saw that users didn't always know the exact station name. So we asked the developers to implement flexible search that will help the users find the station even by synonyms or other words. In this case, there's a station that used to be named Arlozorov. Today, it's named Tel Aviv Center. Whether you search by Arlozorov or Tel Aviv Center, you will still find the correct station. And once the users plan the route, they might want to get back. So they can easily switch between the origin and destination stations and find their way back on a later time. And since most users plan their trips right before or the day before, this needs to be reflected in the design hierarchy. Today and tomorrow must be very accessible, and only rarely will they need to pick another day. And only then we show a calendar. There's no real need to show a calendar up front, which is much more complicated. You need to think what date it is today and so on. Just specify today, tomorrow, or another day. Those were some of the UX decisions. Now let's look at the design, motion, and microcopy that are also very important for the overall experience. A big goal was to improve Israel Railway's image. We have a few people here from Israel. They know what I'm talking about. So in addition to the improved flow, we wanted users to understand there's something new here the moment they open the app. That's why in this case, we created a unique design that did not follow the traditional brand book guidelines. We started with this, a rough illustration of Israel, designed, believe it or not, by a real human being. Her name is Paulina, not Midjourney and not Dali. It was 2 years ago. But the client said, Israel doesn't look like this. There's no sea between Tel Aviv and the train station. And besides, we'd like to emphasize the human aspect. So we made this illustration showing a dad and daughter near a train riding home. However, the client said, this guy looks suspicious. He doesn't look like a dad. And besides, most of our trains are red double-decker. That's how we ended up with this design of a family next to a red double-decker train. Microcopy also has a big impact on the organization's image and how users feel about it. So we implemented a natural, friendly, and personal dialogue instead of the very formal copy that they used to have previously. And in case of empty states and errors, we provide the information and also an action to do to get out of that error situation. Micro animations are also very important in this context. They add a sense of sophistication, innovation, and fun, and in this case also fill the waiting time. And in general, motion is an important part of any design. It draws users' attention to the important screen elements, and furthermore, a smooth transition between screens and elements and states makes the app feel advanced. In our case, specifically, the capsule element transforms from a button into a search field, then into a date selection toggle, and finally into a drop-down with a summary of our choices. Okay, UX and UI design are done. All we had to do was to verify that our solution actually works. It's not rocket science, but still, it wasn't completely standard. It was not like other apps in this field. Testing occurred throughout the project, of course. On the UX design phase, we created a fully interactive wireframe-based prototype, tested it with users, and made corrections. The unique thing about this project is that we created a fully designed prototype as well that helped us test the actual design and application with users, and also helped us show the developers exactly how we wanted the app to look and behave. And it also helped us create this presentation, of course. Prior to launching the app, a pilot test was conducted. 50 users were given the app, used it for about a month, and provided feedback. We made some corrections and launched the final app. And of course, after launching the app, we continue monitoring the app, collecting feedback and analytics, and launching the new version as needed. What about the results? Overall, the project was a success. App downloads and usage have doubled since the previous version. The app is very popular despite the alternative. And we're getting great feedback. We're very proud of this one. This user downloaded the app on the first day, liked it so much that he had to see who designed it. He came to our site and contacted us. The best thing that we like about this is how he felt that he was being thought of and understood as a passenger. This is what we are working for. In addition to World Usability Day Design Challenge Award, the app won 2 additional awards in 2022. To sum it up, focusing on the added values helped us create a usable product despite the alternative. User stories and natural dialogues helped us design the processes in a way that matches the user needs. Prototyping helped us think as professionals, help us demonstrate and test our solutions. Whenever possible, we try to come up with our own concept before looking at what others are doing to avoid bias. And the standard solutions are not always what our users really need. Thank you very much.
And thank you too. That was very interesting. I've seen this presentation a few times, but I always enjoy it and I always learn new things. So thank you very much, Nitzan. So we'll go over to Ling now. As Elizabeth said, if you can put questions in the chat, and we'll come back to those later. But if you could share your screen now, please, Ling.
Sure. Thank you, Gilbert. Hi, everyone. I'm Ling. I'm currently working at Product Designers, based in London. I got the master from Goldsmith University of London last year, and this is one of the projects that I did in the university. And I'm very glad to be here today to present you the case study. So the topic we're working on is a cognitive-based design to influence structured financial planning and money management for young people. This is a kind of end-to-end project that I cooperate with BlackBlueN. So BlackBlueN is a fintech company that focuses on financial education, and it registered in many organizations in United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand. And we were working to improve the current feature that running the system, which is allow students to create the budget and tracking the budget. And our challenge is how might we help young people to manage their money on the regular basis, and motivate them to put their financial knowledge into practice. We're looking at the way to combine the theory in mental budgeting and integrate it into the design. So it kind of like combining the theory and the design to figure out the way that we can change the behaviors on money management. And we're mainly looking at mental budgeting, financial management of the young student. And the process we use is adapt from user-centered design, where there are 3 phases. The first thing is understand the problems. So I conduct several of user behavior analytics based on the data we got from BlackBlueN, looking at the literature review, doing some market research on the competitor to see how they're doing, and also talk to different stakeholders inside the organization to understand the need and the requirement from business as well. And then from that, we take into the ideate, we take all the info, all the requirement into the ideating and prototyping the design, starting with the wireframe, iterate the design, testing the design, from low fee to high fee until we got the final UI design. And along with that, we're also doing the evaluating the user experience by conducting evaluating tests, for example, the guerrilla testing, in lab usability. So we set up a lab, a usability lab in Goldsmith, and we recruit students into testing. One of the tasks that I do integrate the eye gaze tracking analytic into the usability test, which give me more understand of the user behaviors when they interact with the system, which I would mention very soon in this slide. So based on the data that we got from Black Balloons from Google Analytics, with nearly, I think, 10,000 data record, we are able to figure out like what are the users, what they're doing in the system. So what we found is more than 60% of the user, quite young, they're between 18 and 34. They live in the big city where the cost of living is highly significantly high. For example, London, Birmingham, Liverpool. And they using the tool via the mobile phone and desktop device. And deep dive into the behavior that they're doing in the system. When they create the plan or they create the budget, 91% of them create only one plan, but they never come back. I mean, they never tracking, they only created, but they never tracking. And we also found from the interview that maintain budgets can be very emotional for students. Some of the students found that they quite enjoy it, and they feel that it's a sign of financial independence, while the other students also feel that it kind of like stretch to know how much they spend, and they are worried about not paying a bill on time. And their budgets are usually set over a very short amount of time, such as week and month. This insight is really important, and it's the good input for the design when we consider about the need of the user and the problem that the student get to. We also look at the literature review to understand, in general, how we manage money inside our head. And I use the illustration here to kind of like represent the concept that I found. It's quite interesting. So how we manage the budget inside our head, there are three main steps. The first thing we call budget setting. So you can see here in the illustration, what we do is like when we have the money or when we have the income, we're labeling the money as relevant to a certain class of products. So I use the glass of water here to represent that. So you may have like, glass for food, housing, entertainment, and so on. And in X glass, you mark the limit that how much you should spend on X of the glass. So this is the limit on how much you should spend. And then when you spend money, you do the same thing, like you label the money as relevant to particular like pool of money. So it's just like you pouring water into the glass. And if any of the category that over the budget, we tend to avoid spending, and it's how we trigger the self-control for budget and spending. So from that, usually when a person manages budget, three questions usually come up. The first is, what if I spend that much? For example, what if I spend, let's say 1K for a room, for renting a room? Is that a reason number for me? If it's not, how can I adjust? So with that in mind, with all the understand of the behaviors and literature review, I'm able to forming the design strategy for the tool. So budgeting, it kind of like challenging task for people, and it will affect by a lot of factor. So when we develop the solution for helping people manage budgets, the first thing we need to help people aware of their situation, understand their financial situation. So from that, they are able to evaluate the situation. They're able to compare between the expense and income. And from understanding their position, they are able to forming the right action to achieve their goal. I would explain in detail in the design when we go to that. And in general, when we look at the design improvement that we did, the new design has significantly improved. So the old design is lack of engagement, and it have many input that require memories, and also the information it overload. Some information not really interest users. In the new design, we integrated the goal plans, the dashboard, and the goal tracking, and also rewarding students when they keep track of the plan. This is overview of the improvement, but you can see in detail when I show you the design later. And one of the things that I'm using in that case study is integrated eye gaze tracking to evaluate the experience and the behaviors. And I found it quite useful because it not require user to speak while they are doing the test. I can base on the data that I gather after the experiment to analyze how the user look at the interface and how they interact with the interface. So we set up the lab in GoSmith that with the cameras and the eye gaze tracking quite small. It's a 2B eye gaze tracking where we can record the eye movement of the participant joining. So I use 3 data analysis method from eye gaze tracking to analyze the result. The first thing is area of interest is to analyze the user attention to different components in the interface. Gaze plot is to understand the visual heuristic. So from gaze plot, we can see where people look at and what is the eye movement pattern from gaze plot. And last but not least, it's also very common heat map to understand the viewer search experience. So the first improvement that we did in the design is we changed the way that we approach when the user start the planning. So you can see in the left-hand side, it's the old design. And in the usability testing, we show user with both old version and the new version, and we evaluate how they interact with both version. So when the user start with the old version, it looked like very technical document. It looked like a technical document actually, and it's lack of engagement, and it's really hard for the student to find how they create the plan. On the new design, we changed the approach to goal-oriented. So instead of let's start the plan, we ask the question, what you want to achieve? What is your goal? In order to trigger the positive effect. Now you think of okay, what you want to set out. So one of the common goal, for example, you want to save more money for holiday, or you want to set an emergency fund, or save more money in general. So it trigger the good attitude and also keep the people doing, keep the motivation for people. The second improvement is during the journey, there are many questions that the student have to answer. And the process you can see here is make the thing very difficult. It looked like quite like complex, and also many information make the student confused. With the new design, we want to make it more human. We want to make it like human conversation, where on the right hand side you can see the question, and the left hand side you can see the answer for the question that you already did. And it's simple, one question per page, one question per time. So it's just like you like talk to the person, and we can see that behaviors when we look at the eye gaze tracking metric. So one of the metric that we use here is gaze plot. So the bubble represent where user look at, and the side of the bubble represent how long they look at the interface. So in the old interface, it quite like, yeah, the very high number of fixation. You can see from here, like the eye of the user, they keep moving left, right, because in the interface, there are question and there are text field for them to enter. So they have to keep like, go back and forth to see the interface. And the long fixation duration, they take a lot of time on X text field. On the other hand, in the new design, we're seeing very good pattern that we want to achieve as well. People start noting their answer, they read the question, answer it, and submit. It makes it easy, simple, and also reduce the time and cognitive load for them. Another thing that I also want to integrate it into that journey is because managing money or keeping budget is quite like challenging task. We want to make it, and from interview, we're seeing that some of the students feel really stressed when it comes into managing money. So we want to make it not just easy, but also very emotional design. We celebrate along the journey. Whenever students like finish their plan, we like celebrate together with them. And also, if they can complete their plan, we give them a bonus. So this bonus is currently available in the system, a Blackburn system. With that bonus, a student can exchange for the voucher and get some reward. And one of the interesting I found from like eye gaze tracking as well is we can deep dive into the user behaviors. So here is a like result screen from the old design, where we have like five area of interest here. And we measure how long people take on that area of interest. So you can see here, one of that is like the numbers, the status, some advice, some like paragraph to explain what does this mean, money in and money out. So we define 5 areas of interest in order to measure how people look at that sport. And it's quite surprising. You can see here, like there are only 2 words here, but people spend 3.37 seconds for that. Why is very long paragraph here, just 3.8 seconds. It's quite like, yeah, interesting, like that, why that 2 simple words take a lot of time for them. Same as this one, like is obviously very easy to see, but why it takes so long. And also people spend a lot of time looking at the money out. And with the interview after the experiment, after the usability test, it revealed that the status doesn't make sense for the user. They don't understand what the green band means for them. And the numbers, they don't understand if it's a monthly or it's a yearly numbers. So actually this is confused to the users. And long text paragraph, we all know that like web users don't read at all. So they're not really interested in the long text. So you just skip that. But they're really interested to see how much money they spend on on a month. So they take a lot of time. So with that data and with that understand, we're able to forming the new dashboard that empower people to take the action. So when it comes to your financial needs, or when it comes to like the need for like spending, everyone have different needs. So instead of indicating the budget is high or low, like back to the example, if you spend 1K for a room, instead of saying it high or low, because it really depends on the need, we give them information, we give user information to evaluate their spending. So let's say if you spend £700 for housing, we show them the ability to evaluate like what is the average in the areas, and where you are in that, and you can see the others spending based on the data that we got. Like, so with that information, you're able to forming the conclusion that like it is reasonable for me, and it's also follow up one of the strategy that we mentioned at the beginning. You are able to evaluate your situation, and you make a decision on this is what's suitable for you or not. And from the user testing, we were seeing some positive feedback, and the majority of the test of the participants, they quite like the idea. They enjoy to use that, and they found that is quite easier compared to the old system. And we got also 82 on the system usability score, which quite like acceptable for the financial system like that. Three things that I learned from the case study. The first thing is the new approach that we use to make a tool, make the financial planning more human, more enjoyable for the student. And also, the design structure can be used to assist designers in developing a theory practical approach within the financial context. And the last but not least is the integration of eye tracking with traditional usability, have us to understand more and deeply about the user behaviors without interrupting them while they're doing interacting with the products. And this is really like interesting to see how we can combine the theory from academic to the industries to forming a solution that help the student. It's just a little bit images, and thank you for listening. You can also access the case study from online. I made it online, so you can scan and or click to the link, access to the link. With that, thank you so much, and I hand over back to Elizabeth.
Okay, well, thank you, Ling, and I'll be handing over to Elizabeth as well, but thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. It's so great to see this. Honestly, I've seen this several times before, but I feel like every time, maybe I'm getting something new. And also super happy with these awards. The jury did a great job, Gilbert. So it looks like there's a few questions. It's funny, there was a question from Carolina that Nitsan answered in his talk. I don't know if Caroline, I know she was having trouble with her sound, so I don't know if she's available. I'll tell you what, we'll go back to that in a minute, but there was a question for you, Lynn, about which tool you use to capture the analytical data, and then we'll go over to Carolina in a minute. Go ahead, Lynn. Which tool did you use?
From beginning to understand the behavior data, so we use Google Analytics from the company, and for the usability test, we use the platform provided by 2B, I think. They call that iGaze Analyst. Yeah, so it collects data, and it's kind of like analyze and give it some of the visually from the design for result.
Thank you. So let's see, there was, okay, great. I was just going to say there was a request to share the links, but Gilbert put the name of the company in, and so you can also Google it. There's quite a lot of tools. It's weird. I would say 5 years ago, there was not nearly this many tools to like integrate all the data, the eye tracking, biometrics, all that. But now it's just amazing. So, so thanks for that. All right. So just going back to Carolina. So the question I thought was, it was funny because Nitsan, you answered this without obviously realizing that it had just been posed in the chat. But basically the question was, how do you take your ideas, you know, from the concept all the way through to the wireframe? So Nitsan answered it in his chat. I'm going to let, in his talk, I'm going to let Carolina answer it, and then we'll have time for a few more questions after that. So go ahead, Carolina. How did you do that?
So how do you transfer ideas to a wireframe?
Yeah, from right.
Yeah, well, it's a tricky question. I actually, sorry. So I think it's just iterating also, like, I think it's a hard time when you have these ideas and you want to make them concrete and you want to communicate them as well, right? So iterating on the wireframes, I think it's very important. It's first to make sure that and that's why this user testing at the beginning is very important, because you can get feedback if your idea has been cleared out or not, and then you can refine it and continue sharing it until you have a more concrete visual or how it's going to look like, and that it translates the ideas, the research that you've done, and the process that how you want things to be done, and how the user is also interpreting that. So I think that, like, iterating a lot and having constant feedback early on, it's very important.
Thanks. And I know Nitsan kind of like talked about the process, but what was great from both of you, I do feel like I sort of asked the questions before I go to bed and let it simmer, although sometimes it's not like as fast as the next morning, like you said, Nitsan. But it is like letting it grow, because that's what creativity is anyway. You don't come up with the idea immediately. You kind of like a garden growing, right? You like get the idea and you got to keep like working with it or getting feedback or that kind of thing. So
that's very true. Taking a shower.
In the shower. Go ahead, Nitsan.
It's not a one-time thing. You keep sleeping at night and waking up with ideas, and then the next day and the next day and a week later, and keep refining your solution.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think you said something like sit with it, and my version was always, oh, I have to digest. I have to digest this. Like I learned this, and now I have to digest. Oh, Gilbert, go ahead.
Yeah, if I can just come in here, what we know from a half century of research in creative design is this is a two-way process. Now, engineering design, and as part of that, user-centered design always has us going from contextual research to requirements to design. We just know from 50 years of research that is not what's happening. It's what Donald Shern calls a conversation with the materials of the design situation. And you saw a lot of design first work here. You saw that with UX Expert of coming up with their own ideas before the competitor analysis. And you see Carolina running ahead each time with having a design in place. So I think asking how you get from ideas to wireframes presumes a linear process for which we've got very little evidence at all from 50 years, despite what the books and arrow diagrams say. And what's been very interesting about these award winners is seeing that constant dialogue between different aspects of design, between the user research, between the design, the evaluation, and not going around in the strict order as all those box and arrow diagrams sadly keep trying to pretend happens.
I agree. I mean, because the idea is, you know, this is human-centered design. So humans, you may have noticed, don't tend to like evolve in a straight line. Like we think we like, it's not, you know, it's iterative. It's sort of like that. So this is great. And it's also great. I think we're going to have to end, but I know there was some questions about the tools, and I think some of it's being answered in the chat. but it is time to close out. I just want to say what I particularly enjoy about, the winners in this process. You guys are representing different domains, different areas. You're not just coming from one, like just the academy, just the industry. It's a mix. And what's great about having you all together with these things is I see an evolution, like some industry knowledge getting passed to some academy folks and then vice versa, and that was the goal of this. So yay for that. So on that cheerful note, I will say thank you again to Gilbert for all your work and to the winners for submitting and for doing these. And I will post this on our World Usability Initiative channel by the end of the day. So I'll send out an email to everybody. And thank you again. Have a good rest of the day or night, wherever you are on the planet. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.